Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.
Hey guys, so I'm here today to talk about some authors who once upon a time I loved. Once upon a time I'd have said they were favourites. In fact, on this channel I probably said they were favourites at one point, but I think I've moved on. Some of these you'll probably understand exactly why I've moved on. Some of them maybe you're not sure about, maybe you're going to disagree with, who knows. Let's get started. Let's talk about the authors that I think I've moved on from and why. But let me start off with saying, when I said a lot of these authors were my favourites, I was relatively new to fantasy. Fantasy was still something very exciting, very different, something I had not been reading for a long time, especially adult fantasy. I'd been reading maybe kids fiction that had fantasy elements, that kind of thing, but I was definitely newer to fantasy as an adult genre when I started my booktube channel, which is almost 10 years ago. It's like 9 years, I think, so over 9 years, which is kind of wild. I think I started it in 2013. So yeah, long time ago. My reading tastes have evolved, have changed, have definitely become more refined, and I would say I'm probably a harsher critic now, which is fine. That's kind of what happens naturally when you read widely in a genre. And I have read widely in a genre. I've read a lot of things that are popular, very well known authors, and then I've also started branching out more into lesser known authors, self-published, indie presses, that kind of thing over the course of my channel. It's just been a natural evolution. I've also focused a little bit more specifically on writers who are female, writers who are queer, writers who write about things that are queer, writers who have different world building, different characterization, emotional characters, because that's something I really enjoy, characters you can connect with, people who write really interesting ideas and concepts. So some of these authors do that and some don't, and some I've just lost patience with. So let's talk about the authors. First up is going to be two, maybe even three pretty obvious ones. I wouldn't say I don't like any of these people. Personally, I don't know any of them, so I can't have judgment on that. But in terms of their writing, Rothfuss, Patrick Rothfuss, I really enjoyed the first book he wrote. I thought it was great. I also enjoyed his novella, which was really wacky and out there and exciting and fun. The second book I didn't love as much as his first one, but I enjoyed it still. It was fine at the time. The third book is probably never going to appear, is it? So, you know, it's been, what, 7, 8 years since he released the last one? I can't remember, but it's been a long time. What's he been doing in that time? Writing wise, he's been doing lots of stuff to do with his company. He's been doing lots on Twitter and lots in general. But has he been writing books? I don't know. And do I care? Not really. I used to be really excited for the next one in the series, but it's been so long, I'm not that fussed, and I don't know if I would even bother to read it when it came out. So I think I could say maybe I've just outgrown him, maybe I've just lost patience with him. It's just, I don't care enough anymore, and if I make anticipated things, you're probably not going to see him in it anymore, even if there is rumours that maybe it's coming, maybe it'll be this year. You're not going to see him probably in it because I'm not that fussed anymore. I don't really care whether he brings another one out or not. I do not know if it'll even ever happen. So Patrick Rothfuss, kind of over the long old wait. Another author, same problem, George R.R. Martin. I've read all of the ones that came out before the TV show, and then I watched the majority of the TV show, although they did kind of lose my interest on the last 2 seasons. I don't think I watched those, which sounds like was a good decision from like a lot of people's criticism of the 2 seasons that I haven't watched. But yeah, I've heard really good things about his latest spin-off series, which I don't know that he's particularly involved in, but the spin-off like House of Dragons series sounds like it's doing really well and people really like it. I've not been able to watch it because I don't have Sky, but you know, one day I will watch House of Dragons and I'm sure I'll really enjoy it. but he seems like he's kind of gone a different way, and that's fine. I don't really mind, because at this point, a lot of people have been waiting a long time for the series to finish. I've been waiting a long time, and I didn't even read it when they all came out. I only really read them a little while before the fifth one came out, and then read the fifth one. I can't remember if I waited for the fourth or not, but definitely the fifth wasn't out when I was reading them, and I remember it coming out and it was very exciting because he was still actively releasing books. It's been a long time. Is he going to publish the last one? Probably eventually, but is it going to be anytime soon? I don't know. And am I that fussed? Not really. I think, you know, he's already had a TV show that's wrapped up and ending. I haven't watched it, but I've heard what it is, and it's not super surprising to me just from the direction the books were going. Will he change the direction the books go to avoid that? I don't know. Do I care? I don't know. That's the real thing. Unfortunately, I just think same problem as Rothfuss. It's been a long time, and even with books that are really good, unless it's a completed series and I love it and I'm rereading it, I probably am going to forget it for a long time, if it's a long time between books. And this has been a really long time, so I don't know that I'm that fussed. I also think both Rothfuss and Martin are like white guys who write fantasy, which is kind of the stereotype that we've had for many years. It's not a bad thing. I don't necessarily dislike that. I do enjoy books written by white guys in fantasy, and I think they can be great. But I also think personally I'm just reading a bit more diversely generally now. I think publishing has kind of gone into a more diverse direction. It's got a long way to go, but it's definitely heading in the right direction, and that's something I really like, and I'm happy to support publishing different kinds of authors with different kinds of perspectives and views and ideas that they want to portray. And I don't feel like either Rothfuss or Martin do an awful lot of diversity or an awful lot of interesting ideas or points of view in their books. They have entertaining books, but they're not necessarily doing a lot of the things that I now actively seek out more. So yeah, I'm a little over them. Same thing for Scott Lynch. It's a similar problem. He's, again, fairly far through the series, so I'm more invested. And I actually really enjoyed this series when I read it. I feel like it's a little bit different to the other two. The others are big epic fantasies, and this one's a little bit more sword and sorcery, so they're a bit easier to get into, a bit more fun. I do really enjoy what he's released so far. I didn't love the latest one as much as the previous, from what I remember, and saying that now, my memory of it is hazy at best because it's been so long. I don't even remember what the adventure was that they were on, to be honest. I know I loved the first two, and then I feel like the third one, it all just gets a little bit lost in my head. Like, what were they doing? I don't know. I did really love it at the time. I probably will read it if he brings out the next one, but I know that it's unlikely to happen for multitude of reasons anytime soon, and I just, yeah, I don't know that I care as much as I did, for sure. I feel like, again, it's another case of I'm kind of over it, and I'm kind of not that invested anymore, which is sad. Because yeah, I do feel like these authors, if they had kept going at the pace they started, or even just actively been writing and actively been pushing that they are coming with their books and they're working on them and it's all going well, even if it's taking longer than expected, then maybe they'd have an audience retention that was higher. But yeah, these authors, unfortunately for me, they have kind of lost me as a fan that's actively waiting for their books. I'm probably gonna hear about the books coming out and be excited for the authors that they've finally done it. But are they going to be quality products? I don't know. Will I read them? I don't know. The next one on my list is one that a lot of people are going to be mad about, but I've said it on my channel before, I'll say it again. Steven Erikson. He writes Malazan, if you don't know. Malazan, Book of the Fallen, is a massive 10-book series with lots of books by a spin-off author who is his friend. They have, between them, created this world. They've written loads of books in it, and the Malazan Book of the Fallen is kind of like this, I would say, almost cult fanaticism where people love it or hate it. I think I read up to book 8, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them all. to some extent, but they are lengthy, they are confusing, they are difficult to get into because you are really thrown into the world without an awful lot of explanation. There are hundreds of characters, literally hundreds of characters to wrap your head around, and loads of different races. Now, this can be amazing, and there are bits of Erikson's work that I really enjoyed. He does have some really emotional scenes, he does have some really interesting parts, but by book 8, I was burnt out. I was over it. It was dragging, it was boring, I was not feeling it, and I was just reading them to complete the series, and I decided, you know what, this is going to be the first big epic fantasy series that I just don't finish. And I haven't. I've never finished it. I've got questions on that last video review that I did of like the 8th book, being like, where's your review of the 9th? Where's your review of the 10th? Did you not finish it? You've got to finish it. I didn't. And I don't think I will. I've actually given away my copies of the books now, so there is no chance that I will be finishing the series. I just wasn't as invested as a lot of people get, and I thought it was fine. Bits of it I really liked, bits of it I thought were rubbish. There were some moments that I just didn't love, particularly in the later books. I did feel like it was getting a bit convoluted, and it wasn't my favourite thing, really. I would say I personally like maybe less characters. I still like lots of characters, but less than there are in Malazan, and like more focus. And the shift around in the books means that you don't always have time to really connect with one particular character or one particular set of characters before you shift on to another area. It is supposed to be this kind of all-encompassing world, and it does have elements that work really well. But for me personally, I just decided I'm not into it anymore, and I called it quits, and I don't think I'll ever read another Erikson book, not because I dislike him in any way. It just bored me, and I just didn't find it fun, so I'm not gonna likely carry on, even though I invested an awful lot of time into the first few books. Yeah, I don't feel an urge to finish it, I'm afraid, and I'm really sorry to everyone who is a Malazan fan and is going to be horrified by this. I don't think you're going to talk me into it, because I've got friends who are massive Malazan fans, but they've not managed it. So yeah, Malazan, unfortunately, a little bit over it, and I don't think I'll be reading any more Erikson anytime soon. Now for some more controversial ones, j.k. Rowling. Now, j.k. Rowling love Harry Potter, still do, will continue to love Harry Potter, but don't particularly like j.k. Rowling herself in quite a lot of the things she's recently been talking about. Also not very interested in all the books she's brought out since Harry Potter, because she has done some stuff under a pen name, she's also done some stuff under her own name, but like different sorts of books, and for me just none of them have been interesting. Like, Harry Potter was great when she wrote it, I know it's got problems, I understand that, but it was nostalgic and I love rereading them, and I will continue to reread them because Harry Potter as its own entity works well for me personally. It gives me that nostalgia, it takes me away to a new place, and I do particularly love the illustrated editions of Harry Potter, which Jim Kay is illustrating. I don't think they're all out yet, but I think it's up to like the 5th one now, so lots of them are out. I will continue to buy them to support Jim Kay because I really love his artwork and I think these are incredible additions. But j.k. Rowling, I don't think it's likely I'm going to be buying any more of her books for anything she brings out or anything she's bought out since Harry Potter, and she's just in this weird spiral at the moment on Twitter, so I just can't support her unless she does something that's like actually interesting to me, and at the moment that's just not happening. She's just writing weird stuff, and let's be honest, she is popular enough as she is. She does not need to keep writing books, so she's just writing them for the fun, and they're just not the genre I enjoy. They're just not something I'm interested in, so definitely over j.k. Rowling, definitely not particularly interested in anything she brings out, and definitely don't really want to associate myself with her in general at the moment, because I do feel like she's on this weird spiral that is pretty nasty, and I don't necessarily agree with anything she says. And yeah, I don't love people who spread hate, whatever that is about. I don't love it, and I think she's kind of doing that. So yeah, not for me. Definitely moved on from her. This is more tied to her personally, but also I just think the books that she is bringing out why would I want to read them? They're not Harry Potter. Like, you've done it, and the rest not working for me. So that's a shame. The next one and the final one on my list is again going to be somewhat controversial, and actually I wouldn't say I'm over this author, but I would say I'm kind of over one series by him, and that is Brandon Sanderson. Now, Brandon Sanderson would have been one of my top authors had you asked me a few years ago, and in fact I credit him with getting me into adult fantasy. So he was a massive impact on me particularly, and me putting him in this video is kind of, I guess, a statement to like how far I've come with reading different types of authors. Brandon Sanderson's another like classic white fantasy author, and it shows in his books. They are not particularly diverse, and even in his later books, which I think he's tried to diversify a little bit more, it just doesn't come through in the same way as a lot of other authors do, and he's not really embracing an awful lot of the things I particularly like in fantasy anymore. I did really like all of his Cosmere books, and I enjoyed The Way of Kings and the second one, which I can't remember the name. The third one I actually didn't love. I think I DNF'd it in the end, or maybe it was the fourth, whichever one the most recent one was. I DNF'd for now. I might go back to it at some point. I'm never going to say never with him, because he has drawn me into the series plenty of times before. But I was a little bit disappointed in his big epic series. Now, I do think I will continue to read standalone books by Sanderson, or books that are kind of different to his big epic, because I really enjoy his Cosmere books. I really like them. I just didn't like the way that he's slowed down writing with his big epic series, and his big epic series kind of lost me a little bit, I guess, because there's been quite a length between the release of his books. It's a big open world, and I just wasn't as invested as his other series, and I was surprised that I wasn't that invested. I was really surprised that I wasn't loving it, because I expected to. I've really enjoyed loads of his books, but I think my tastes have just changed a bit and evolved a bit, and I do think I'll still read stuff by him. I definitely do, but I'm kind of over that series. I'm kind of over instantly buying his books and saying he's my favourite author, because he's not anymore. I've got others who I really enjoy more than I enjoy his books, and although I think he has great ideas, and he will always have great ideas, I don't think he does characters as well as he does ideas. So I think from now on I'll probably be reading his work, but going into it with a more surface level look at things, and more kind of going into it with the expectation of the world being cool and the magic being cool, but maybe not with the characters gonna fit my particular tastes of diversity, of queerness, of something a bit different from your stereotypical farm boy or farm girl, you know, growing up and having a destiny, which I do feel like he does well, but it just emotionally doesn't work as well for me. So I do like Sanderson. I won't say I'm over him, I'm just over some of his series. I think he could potentially have kept me as a reader if he hadn't got as sprawling as he has, and if the book releases were a little closer. He's always been a really quick writer, and then he started this big epic and he's slowed down a lot, and that's understandable, of course, massive books, but I'm a little bit sad that he's not releasing more sort of standalone Cosmere books. I am excited for his secret projects, which I did back on Kickstarter, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they are. They are not all Cosmere, but they are going to be a range of things, so I'm excited that he's written some other stuff during lockdown and that he's bringing something new out in the new year. I will definitely let you guys know what I think of those when I read them, but in terms of his big series, I don't think that one's for me. And I got a lot of comments on my recent video where I talked about auto-buy authors and I did not include Sanderson, and loads of people were like, why haven't you said Sanderson? You used to love him, or I love Sanderson, he should be on your list. Well, this is why. It's not because I dislike him or what he does, I just have kind of got over his big series, and I guess I got a little burned out on him as well because he was releasing so much. I read so much of it in such a short number of years, and I guess it's all a little similar. Like, his world and his magic is different, but I guess in terms of story and person, it's not super dissimilar book by book. So yeah, I think maybe I was a little burnt out on Sanderson, and maybe I will return one day. But at the moment, I'm a little over him, and I'm probably only going to pick and choose his works that I want to read. I won't be buying everything by him. I'll just be picking and choosing what actually sounds like it will appeal to me. So I'd love to know in the comments, were there any authors that I mentioned that you love still, or are there any authors that you guys have had as your favourites and then they kind of just dropped off the list? Maybe not for a particular reason, maybe you've just found better authors that you love more, but let me know in the comments who used to be a favourite and you've dropped them off the list, or why, and let me know what you think of my comments on these authors as well. I'd love to have your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye everyone!
Sit back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat.